Hello, I'm going to be honest, you probably don't need this video by now. This boss has been out a while and you probably already know the moveset. But if you don't and you're granting me the honor of being the one to teach you, I'm very grateful. I'm going to teach you how to fight Heolstor in Night Rain in the most no-hittable way possible. Ideally we're going to start in phase 2, as you'll see in a second, and I've probably already mentioned it. But in any case, let's get into it. The background gameplay you're going to see is a bit outdated. And when I say a bit, I mean it's months outdated, but that's because it's the only time I played Wilder recently. So I'm using Wilder as a baseline because he has the most fair dodge, pretty much the same iframes as everyone else with a few exceptions in the game. I'm going to break down move by move how to avoid it, and hopefully it can help you get a no-hit in, help you clutch up in your random games. I don't know, it depends whatever you need this for. Okay, so to start off with, I'm not going to be covering phase 1 because I feel like if you know phase 2, you know phase 1. Alright, let's get started with his first move then. He's always going to start with the same overhead area of effect attack, as you can see in the background gameplay. For characters like Wilder, anyone with the basic dodge, I'm not going to list them all. You ideally want to be waiting. There's not really anything to it. You can interrupt it with an ult, which is what a lot of people do. But for the most part, you just want to be waiting, and the second you see it about to hit the ground, you need to roll, which I know might just sound counterintuitive to this video, saying just roll it, but there really isn't any advice for that. You can run out of range of it, but the range on it is really far, so unless you have a movement utility, the odds of that happening aren't great. It is also important that if you do get hit by the first one, which ideally we're making this guide so you don't, you want to try and use the frames you get from getting hit to tank through the second one, because once you get hit by the first one, it's kind of hard to roll the second one once you're out of rhythm. So stay down, roll towards the end of it so you can keep the iframes and get back up. Okay, now that we've got the common sense move out the way, we can start getting into the actual moveset. This yell, scream, roar, whatever, is probably his most generous move. It's the longest combo for sure, but once you learn it, you can get a good few punishes in. The most important thing about this move is to break it down into parts. To start out with, as you can see in the background, he's always going to do this roll, which does have a damaging hitbox, but you can just roll backwards and you should be out of the range of it. Once he's finished with that, he's going to do one dash toward you, which you're going to want to wait and just roll into it. You can actually strafe it, but the hitbox in it is really intricate, so that's probably not going to be the case. After you roll his first attack string, he's going to come flying back at you, basically in another dash. You're going to want to try and jump to the right for this, which I know if you don't jump attacks, this is going to be kind of intimidating because you're used to rolling, which you can roll it. But I feel like the hitbox is much more generous if you try and jump it. So just jump. I'm pretty sure if you angle yourself right, you can just jump straight up, but ideally you want to jump to the right. When you jump to the right, that's going to put you out of range for his next attack, which you're going to want to roll into. And then you don't want to swing here unless you're using a really light weapon, like, I don't know, if you're using a fist weapon or a dagger on Duchess. So just to summarize that really quickly, you want to jump and then roll back into him, as you can see in the background. Okay, and after that, he's going to follow up with one more attack, which will be a small spin around him to punish anyone who goes in for like a counter or hit. That's why I specified don't attack him there unless you have a really fast swinging weapon so you can get out. He's going to dash toward you, which you can jump, though I don't advise you do jump this one since the hitbox is a lot less forgiving. When you roll this last attack of the combo, ideally you want to roll backwards and to the left, because if you do that, you'll put yourself in a position where you'll be in front of him, as you can see in the background, which will line you up for a heavy attack, because his recovery animation on this is very long, which is probably the most punishing window you can get in this fight. Next up, you're going to see him do a 2-hit combo followed by a 3rd hit, which is a little bit more delayed. There's really nothing to be said on this. You just roll the first 2 and then wait for the 3rd one and hit him. Not punishable on the first 2 unless you got a really fast weapon like I mentioned before, but I don't think it's worth taking that. Wait for the 3rd hit. Getting a light attack there is probably best idea. Now, after that 3-hit combo, he has 2 possible moves he can follow up with. One of them is a simple poke attack, which has a longer range. I think it does a bit more damage, but it's only 1 attack and it has a lot of a bigger delay on it. The second one, which is the one in the background, he'll do this uppercut sweep thing with his sword, and then he's supposed to follow up with a second attack, but I accidentally staggered him out of it. When you see him do this uppercut sweep, after you roll the uppercut, you can get a light attack in. Then quickly, after you get that light attack in, you want to roll so you don't get hit by the follow-up. When he does the thrust, you can also get a light attack in, but don't have to worry about a follow-up, though you do probably want to position yourself so that you're ready for his next move. So just to go over that again, quickly roll the first part, maybe a light attack to punish, and then after that you want to get out of the way and roll the next move. Okay, now I'm going to cover his phase transition into phase 3 or part 2 of phase 2, whatever you want to call it, the part where he splits the sky and does the big nuke attack. For a character with a regular dodge, you just want to run away from it. He does a little ground AoE pattern, which you can see in the background. You want to just make sure you're not within the pattern, and if you are, you want to wait for it because there is a delay and the explosion travels. It doesn't immediately erupt out of the ground like on many bosses. So you want to run away, try get out of the pattern, which kind of goes out into like a spiderweb type of shape if you're on the pattern, which as you can see in the background gameplay, I was not. You want to try and wait for it to travel toward you and then roll it just before it hits you. But if you aren't on the pattern, you should just be spaced out enough. I like to roll anyway, just because sometimes the hitbox will still hit you even if you don't look like you're on it. For a character like Duchess and Executor, you can actually just stay in the middle to avoid it. Like, you don't have to do this running away. Duchess is pretty simple. You just roll, and ideally you want to roll into where he's landing rather than like a bit away from where he's landing, because as I'll go over for Executor or Executor, there is a delayed explosion that follows up, not immediately in the middle where he lands. So on Executor, you want to try and get right where he's landing, because there is like a delayed shockwave that follows up. If you parry the initial explosion rather than the shockwave, you won't take any damage from anything else. Whereas if you're timing the shockwave parry to be when you think it's going to explode, you're probably going to take damage from it because it doesn't explode when it looks like it will. Same applies to the Duchess dodge. If you dodge into the actual explosion rather than the shockwave, you're not going to take damage, but the delay is going to make you take damage, assuming you're going just based off of what you could see. Okay, now that we're in the harder part of the fight, I have some good news. For the most part, the fight is exactly the same. He has one extra move, but everything else is just follow up some random ground AoE, which is amazing because if you know the first phase, you pretty much know the second phase. As you can see in the background, he does these 3 attack combo, which is probably his best move. It's just 2 swings, and then he'll follow up with a third sometimes. Always assume he's going to follow up with a third. Even though he doesn't always, you ideally just want to do that to be safe, because if you're going for a punish thinking he's not going to follow up, you're going to take damage. Probably the most important thing for this phase is rolling into his attacks rather than away. That ground AoE that he follows up with on every swing is there to punish people for rolling away from him. So if you get low on health, don't start panic rolling backwards to try and get a heal off, because he's going to hit you. You want to roll into him, wait for his combo to end, so then that way you can get a heal off. Just keep rolling into him. And then eventually, he's going to do his phase transition back into his second phase. Now, unfortunately, as you can see, I didn't have the while to run incorporate that phase transition back into the second phase, because I killed him too quickly. So, here's a clip from the Duchess run I was doing where I wasn't using any weapons, and I actually did get one where I didn't use any flasks, but that's beside the point. When he does this phase transition, you'll see him take a long stance. You can actually get, I think, a good bit of damage in here, or even like with great swords and colossal weapons. You're going to see him do 2 swings to start out with, which are, and there isn't really anything to it. You can actually strafe this, which I might show in this clip here. You want to dodge the first 2, and then you can kind of sprint around him, which I didn't really do in the background gameplay, but if you just sprint in the way that I was dodging, you should avoid everything. And then after that, he's going to go up in the air and do this cool little animation. That's when you want to run as far away from him as you can, so you can ready yourself to dodge the ground AoE again, which I taught you earlier. Okay, and once you've learned that, you pretty much know the entire fight. However, you may be noticing there is one move I haven't covered. That move I have not covered is the worst move to no-hit in the entire fight for me. Not as in it's a run ender, but I always take some amount of damage, and I'm sure you know what it is. That one move is this piece of shit right here. The one where he darkens the arena and you have the random homing projectiles. If you're in Wilder, I think your best bet is to just run. Or if you're on anybody that doesn't have the Duchess dodge, I should say, just run around and then roll whenever you think something's near you. I know that's terrible advice, but that's really all I can give you. It works for me most of the time. But if you're on Duchess, however, you can just spam roll. That typically works for me. Though I will say sometimes you're going to take damage just because, it's not going to work every time. It's just how it is. But come to think of it, there is actually another move I've lost, which you're going to see in the background gameplay in a second. The one where he shoots 2 projectiles out and then follows up with a third. I really don't have any advice for this one. Stay close to him. The further away you are, the projectile's more likely to hit you because the attack is actually delayed. It doesn't hit you immediately. And then the third one, roll into him again. That's all there really is to it. So, 2 rolls, as you can see. I like to stay close to him whilst I'm doing those 2 rolls. And then this third one, you want to go through him. You can actually dodge backwards to get a punish and position in. But, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit inconsistent on the hitbox. Okay, so to quickly wrap up the video, we're going to go over all the attacks for this Phase 2 Part 1 and then Phase 2 Part 2. The opening attack, you already know, it's double AoE, 2 rolls, really simple. Roll combo, which I already went over earlier, is the most convoluted one, but you can get a good punish in twice if you've got a fast swinging weapon. The 2 hit with the 50-50 follow-up, there isn't really a way to know which he's going to do until you see the startup animation. If you see him pull the sword back, you'll know he's going to do it first. If you see him drag it under the ground, he's going to do the uppercut. And if he does that uppercut, you know he's going to follow up one more time. The phase transition, where he's going to go into the sky, split it open, Wilder, runner away, Executor, Duchess, maybe Undertaker, I haven't actually tried it yet. You can stay closer to him. Unless you've got an ult, you can use the ult for the invincibility frames, which I forgot to inform you about. Then he has the projectile magic thing that he does, where he shoots it out twice with his sword, and then he'll do a thrust attack that'll go towards you. You ideally just want to strafe the first 2, make sure you're still rolling just in case it does hit you, and then for that third one, roll into it unless you feel comfortable rolling backwards. Then for his worst move, his darkness, homing projectile things, whatever you want to call it, just run around, roll whenever you hear it near you. The audio is a crucial part of that move. You can hear like a sound effect whenever it's near you. It's like a whoosh kind of sound. Whenever you hear that, you want to roll. But if you're on Duchess, you can get away with just spam dodging. Then for phase 2, it is pretty much the same, to be honest. Really nothing changes, just roll into him. Obviously that phase transition has a little bit of an extra startup on it, where he just did like thing where he swings around and he gets a hyper armor that you can't stagger him out of. But for the most part, just play the same, roll in towards him, keep an eye on the ground to make sure you're not standing on the random geysers that spawn, and that's pretty much it. Regardless, that's the end of the video. I'm sorry if this came out a bit awkward or unhelpful or whatever. As you can see, this is like my first video, especially my first video in this format. So I just figured I'd try and help people out if they were still struggling with this boss, because I know it's been out for a while now. If you did like it, then I'm glad. Let me know. I will try and put more effort into these if I do make more, but for this one, I hope this was a good enough first video for everybody. So, thanks for watching. Hope I could help out with things that you might have been struggling with. Alright, bye.